Well, greetings everyone. I hope you're enjoying this second day of the Feast of Tabernacles. Oh, we've got a Ryan premiere. I'll get with you later, my friend. Today is Friday, October 2nd, 2020, and right now it's 1:26 p.m. Now, I did find out what these berries are. That's called an American beauty berry, and I'm glad I found a bush. You know, it's amazing to me because I live in New York now, but I grew up here, right in this area, and I never ever, from what I can remember, have seen a bush, the American beauty berry bush before, or tree. Gorgeous. Nice thing is I'm going to make some jelly out of it. Okay, but anyway, what I wanted to bring out today is what I believe to be the sole cause of the rapture doctrine. And the reason why it came about is because somebody just didn't know how to read the scriptures. Because of that blindness, it was used. Well, it says in Revelation 12 verse 9 that, Satan was cast down, that old dragon, the serpent of old, who deceives the whole world. So Satan has the whole world deceived. And I'm going to show you in the scriptures here, because my buddy, and yours too, I hope, let me show you here, Harry had written. Hello, Harry. All right, my friend, great. Anyway, Harry says, "Gave thumbs up, Bubby, in spite of your law keeping, whichever one of many you broke today." Lots of laugh. Well, actually, Harry, I don't think I broke any laws today. I'm keeping the Feast of Tabernacles. I've got my tabernacle put together there. I've got the boughs of the trees and such that I've, put on my little tabernacle. We're told to get these branches. Of course, I don't have a willow anywhere near me. I had searched out up and down the Mohawk River that runs not too far from where I'm living here in Rome, New York, but I went up and down, the Mohawk. They've got nature trails that go by it, and I never seen a willow. So, I don't know of where there'd be one, and I only have my bicycle, so I couldn't get no willow branches. Otherwise, I would have them if I could have, but I got what I got, and that's all we got. But anyway, this is the second time, Harry, that you gave me a thumbs up. The other day you gave me one and didn't even know why. Now you're seeming to do it, and yet, Harry and I, we have this thing, that Harry's blind because he cannot see that there's no rapture. In fact, he keeps coming, don't you, Harry? You keep coming back with all these different dates, but this time he hasn't given me a date yet. I've asked him a couple times when this new one is that he, as preacher Shirley would have come up with, but he hasn't told me another date. Now, Harry, I want you to listen very close, my friend, because I love you. And I was praying today specifically for you. I was on my knees right over here. I have to do it at the foot of my bed now, where I normally pray on the other side over there. But I was asking, I was like, Yahshua, why is it that Harry just can't see, that there isn't a rapture? And our King showed me, it was like, and I don't normally have what everybody else has, because I had hit my head pretty hard one time, and it actually got rid of most of my childhood. I no longer had the photographic memory that I once had, and I lost the pictures in my head. When somebody talks about a bicycle, okay, or a yellow fruit that when you cut it, it gets so juicy, and you bite into it and your mouth just waters because it's a lemon. You get these pictures you can see in your brain. I don't have them. All I've got is words, okay? Recently I have been getting a couple little flashes here and there, like today. And I also had a few dreams here recently where I didn't normally have any dreams at all. It's like my movie theater in the brain had, come under some severe renovations or something, and I just haven't had pictures for many years. and it's been very difficult for me because of it. But today I was on my knees, and what I was shown, Harry, you see here, this is, I put in here, Temple Mount Jerusalem Wailing Wall, and all these pictures of the Wailing Wall come up. And everybody thinks, you know, that this is where the temple has to be built and everything else in these last days, that, you know, this is the holy site. But here when we read in Matthew 24, starting verse 1, it says, Then Yahshua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came up to show him the buildings of the temple. Yahshua said to them, Do you not see all these things? Assuredly, I'm telling you the truth here, assuredly, I say to you that not one stone shall be left here upon another that shall not be thrown down. Now, as we look at these pictures here, tell me, does this look like what our King foretold to take place? Do these look like stones to you? They look like they're stacked pretty well, you know, if you ask me. So then, you know, it makes it seem as though our King's either a liar or people are just thinking the wrong place is, you know, where the temple used to be. Our King says that all the stones would be tossed down. Now, there are other places where it has been said, in opinions and such, where the temple would have been, not here, but another place, and there's not one stone left upon the other. In fact, it was plowed, okay? So there are other places that do match up, but the world, they just go after these things. When our King said, Do you not see all these things? Assuredly, I say to you, not one stone shall be left here upon another that shall not be thrown down. Now, what's that got to do with the rapture? Well, my friend, as you see right here, right at the beginning of this very chapter, that is the root of the rapture doctrine, because people cannot read it, okay? You can see here, I hope right now, everyone, including you, Harry, that our King was not speaking of this place. He couldn't have been, because look at the marvelous stonework that's done. All these pictures, you know, just put in Temple Mount Jerusalem Wailing Wall in your Google browser, click the button. I mean, look at this thing, man. It's massive. But it appears that there are stones one upon another, okay? It doesn't look at all like not one stone shall be left here upon another that shall not be thrown down. This is not what our King talked about. And neither is, right here in Matthew 24:3, it says, Now as he, our King, sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, Tell us. Now please pay very close attention to what the disciples want our King to tell them. They're saying, Tell us, when will these things be? What things? Well, it says right here, I say to you, not one stone shall be left here upon another that shall not be thrown down. Tell us, when will these stones be thrown down? And here's another question, second one. What will be the sign of your coming? That was the second question. Now, the sign of his coming. See, the problem with the rapture doctrine is it's all based upon no one knows, not even our King, when he's going to return. But yet the disciples ask him specifically, what will be the sign of your coming? Now our King should have said, hey, I haven't got a clue, guys. Only Yahweh knows, you know, when I'm going to come. You know, I'll be up there sitting and, you know, on a cloud trying to learn how to play old MacDonald Had a Farm, you know, on my new electric harp, man. And I don't know when our Father's going to say, okay, you just go on down there, son, and, you know, get yourself married and, do a rapture thing, because no one knows when you're going to be here, but you do now, okay? Because I'm just telling you, get down there and do your second coming rapture trick. Our king didn't say that, though. The second question, what will be the sign of your coming? Then there's a third question, and of the end of the age, the end of the plan. When will the heavens and the earth be destroyed and made new again? Putting the old out, the new in. When is that going to take place? There were 3 questions asked. Now please read down through here and you'll see that our king is answering those questions. And he starts out by saying right here in Matthew 24:4, it says, and Yahshua answered and said to them, take heed that no one deceives you. Okay? And that's a problem with the rapture. Everyone that believes it has been deceived. But don't worry, Harry, there's plenty of other things that people are deceived about as well. And I'm going to show you the beginning of this doctrine. He talks about the Great Tribulation, everything in here. He talks about the days of Noah, and, immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from heaven, so on and so forth. He talks about the parable of the fig tree. If our king didn't know when he was going to return, how could he be so specific? It makes no sense, does it? There's this thing that takes place as he's going off, and he's talking about this fig tree. Then he says in verse 33 of chapter 24, it says, so you also, when you see all these things, know that it is near at the doors. So our king's saying, when you see these things, know that my second coming is right at the door. Then he adds to that, assuredly I say to you, this generation, and he's not talking the generation of Kepha and Thomas and all the others that he's speaking to these things privately to. He's not speaking to them. He's speaking this generation when he's going to return, so you also, when you see all these things, know that it is near at the doors. When you see that, then know that this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. End of subject matter. Changing over to a totally different subject matter, the third question. You had the first one about the Temple Mount, when these things are going to be and such. The second is about our king's return is coming. And the third about the end of the age. Now he's going to tell you in the middle of his coming, in the middle of speaking about his coming, he's going to do a subject change to the end of days. Now watch. He says, assuredly, I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these other things, it's all through here that I just told you about, come to pass. Subject put to the side, new subject brought forth, heaven and earth will pass away. Our king's not talking about his second coming. When he comes, heavens and earth is not going to pass away. This is the third question here in Matthew 24:3. Now he sat on the Mount of Olives. The disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us, when will these things be? What things? No stone left upon the other. And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? While he was speaking of his coming, then he stopped. He's going to answer this end of the age, and then he's going to go back to elaborating more on the second question. Is there anything improper in that? Because you can't show me where this third question was answered, except right here in Matthew 24:35. First, in 34, this generation will by no means pass away. This is the time where he's going to raise up his 144,000 during this generation, which is, of many years, is a generation of man. 50, 60 years. Sometimes it was only 30, not according to Scripture, but according to the cleanliness and such of our forefathers. There was a time there where, making 40 years old was quite a feat, for some of them. But, they was taking their human waste and just dumping it out the windows in the cities on the sidewalk. And that's actually where stilts were invented, After a rain in Germany, a fellow says, man, I really don't want to walk out there in all this piled up human feces. So he created stilts, and that's where they came from, trying to stay up out of the crap hole on the streets. But anyway, this generation in these last days, for his coming, second question, this generation will not pass away until everything our King has prophesied and all the prophets of old have prophesied, led by Holy Spirit, to bring these things out. Even Enoch, all the prophets had spoke of this last generation. And all they spoke of pertaining to things that are going to take place prior to our King's return will take place. Our King says so. Just like he said that none of these stones would be one upon another, he also said this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. Now please pay attention. This is a complete subject matter change. He's going to answer the end of the age. What's going to take place at the end of the age? Now, after he gives these two verses, he answers the third question. Okay, so please pay attention. He's going to answer the third question about the last of the days, the end of days. Yahshua said, Matthew 24:35, heaven and earth will pass away. Heaven and earth's going to pass away. I'll already have returned, done my 1,000-year millennial reign. Satan at the end of that gets released for 100 years, and second resurrection takes place. And for 100 years, everyone that never had an opportunity to repent will. And for 100 years, they'll be tested and tried to prove themselves worthy of this kingdom of mine and our fathers. After that, heaven and earth will pass away. So Harry, this is way past when the rapture is supposed to come. But it's not going to come because our King knows exactly when he's going to return. That's the biggest part of the rapture doctrine, isn't it, Harry? No one knows. So he could come at any time. But that's only because someone didn't know how to read the scriptures, and they thought our King was actually speaking of his return here. But our King speaks in parables, and he's still wonderful in the Word. I mean, our King can bring forth things from words that people just cannot see. They're blind to them. But when one of his 144,000 reads them, it's like blinders can be pulled right off your eyes, and you can say, "Whoa, I see that now. How is it I didn't see it before?" Well, you got to make the choice that you want to believe and start keeping some of the laws, which is prove all things. That's one of the laws. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. Well, what were his words? If you want life, keep the commandments. He taught his disciples, where the disciples even said, hey, if you say you know him and you keepeth not his commandments, you're a liar. There's no truth in you. That's in 1 John chapter 2, verse 3 through 6. He says these things. And our King said his words aren't going to pass away. But as far as heaven and earth, when they pass away, they will pass away. You want to know about the end of days, my disciples? Well, heaven and earth is going to pass away. That's the end of the days. When? But of that day. What day? Heaven and earth will pass away. Can you see that, Harry? Heaven and earth is going to pass away, but our King's words by no means are going to pass away. He also said that in Matthew 5, verse 17 through about 21, where he said, do not even think I came to do away with the laws. I didn't come to abolish, but to show you how to keep them and the result of your keeping them. Look at me. I've got my cell phone now, you know, for anyone. Look at me. I've got the power to the cell phone for anyone that wants it. All you got to do is apply. You need to qualify for the free gift of salvation. You want to try? I'll give you the schoolmaster. I'll give you the power, man. And he'll lead you into all truths like this one here, Harry. Heaven and earth will pass away, but of that day and hour no one knows, not even the Malachim of heaven, but my Father only. I haven't a clue as to your third question about the end of days. Okay? Here is your answer. Please, Harry, show me anywhere else in here that he answers the end of days. Now, at the end of this statement, 2 verses, he's speaking of his coming. Up here in verse 34, assuredly I say to you, this generation, moi, me, my age right now, you know, I'm getting up there, you know. So it says that this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. Now, it doesn't mean every one of the 144,000 is going to be alive and, you know, on the earth and still kicking when our King returns. But there are going to be some of us that'll be changed in the twinkling of an eye. How many of us have to die? Who knows? Who cares? You know, it'll be a well-taken rest. And we'll be brought up first. Because when our King comes, he's going to raise the dead first. And then, in a twinkling of an eye, he's going to change those that are living. Flesh and blood cannot make it into the kingdom. So then after that, he does a subject matter change. Heaven and earth will pass away, but of that day and hour no one knows, not even the Malachim, the holy Malachim, but my Father only. Done with answer number 3. All over. Finished. Kaput. It's been answered. He goes back to where he left off about this generation not passing away. And he says, but as the days of Noah were, so also will be the coming of the Son of Man. Now, how in the world would our King know that if no one knew the day or hour? Only the Father. How could he be telling you these things, Harry? He told you when heavens and earth were going to pass away, when the end of the age was coming. This is the whole doctrine for the rapture, is that no one knows that day or hour. No one knows when he's going to come. He's going to come and rapture us, and you better be ready now. It's not at all the truth, Harry. Please read it. Here, the subject matter is over. He can't say no more. Nobody knows, only the Father. So he's not going to elaborate on that no more. He jumps back to where he went into answering the third question, back out to subject matter of the second question about his coming. But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. Read all these things, Harry. Read of all the things, his appearance before he comes. He knows when he was going to come. Tell us, when will these things be, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? He told you, the end of the age, nobody knows, not even the Father. poof, rapture doctrine. And trying to lie against our King. The disciples knew that our King knew when he was coming, and they wanted to know the signs. Our King even said, when I come, there's going to be lightning, going on from the east to the west, man, and I will be descending on a cloud. I haven't seen these things. Our King knows when he's going to ascend on a cloud and when the lightning's going to come. He knows these things, Harry. He knows exactly when he's going to come. The Father showed him these things. The only thing our King does not know, Harry, is heaven and earth will pass away. I mean, most Christians don't believe the second part of that sentence, but my words will by no means pass away. But they'll take the first part of the sentence, throw, everything out the window, and create a whole new religion. Because of that day when heaven and earth passes away, but of that day when heaven and earth pass away. But our King's words aren't going to pass away. When the heavens and the earth pass away, of that day and hour no one knows, not even the holy Malachim of heaven, but my Father only. But you want to know about my second coming? As in the days of Noah were. I mean, you seen China and a bunch of these other places. Saudi Arabia is getting flooded. Got all these things going on, Harry, and there ain't no Jesus coming to, just rapture people, in a moment's notice because he don't know when he's coming. No, he does. He said when he comes, it's going to be like the days of Noah. And it is. It's getting there. These rains are coming and it's flooding everything. Read these things, Harry. Read it. Maybe you'll be able to understand, what is actually being said. Because the nations will be flowing to us wanting to know the ways of the Father. Because they don't know. The churches out there are not teaching these things, Harry. They're teaching you lies. But if that evil servant says in his heart, my ruler is delaying his coming, and begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with the drunkards. See, there's nothing wrong with drinking, unless you're doing it with the drunkards or you're practicing drunkenness. I did have Melvin and I have had a couple times we've been together. One night we got to talking with Nick and such, and we almost did 7 hours. Thanks for subscribing, Melvin. I love you, my friend. Okay, here's a comment from Going Home. Okay, now here I had made a comment on Signs and Wonders channel here, September 28th, 2020. This was with Melvin when he shared visions and dreams that he had had. I got on here and I explained because Melvin did bring out, that he doesn't like drinking, okay? And I was basically wanting to let him know that it's not a sin to drink, that it's drunkenness that causes the sin. And Going Home wrote, he says, my friend, the wine in Jesus Day had a small fraction of the alcohol in it that we have in it today. It is not comparable. Okay, and I did, write him back. You can go ahead and read the comments or whatever, but I told him, I says, I know that you are joking, right? Or, which preacher taught you that silly stuff? You ever make wine before, or just parroting what you have been told to support a fallacy? I am making wine right now, and my friend, once it gets going, it takes off. And actually, considering the contamination of the earth today, I would say that the wine was probably more potent back then when the ingredients were pure and undefiled. Our King turned 6 stone jars into wine. Well, the water in the jars anyway. There is no sin in drinking, my friend. The sin is practicing drunkenness. That is the sin. And stop listening to your preachers. They all lie. You are in my prayers from now on, my friend. But, that came from his telling me, that this wine, I don't believe, my friend, going home there, I don't believe that you've ever made wine. If you did, you would have never said these things. Where he talks about, my friend, the wine in the Messiah's day had a small fraction of the alcohol in it that we have in it today. It really is not comparable. And my friend, they didn't drink Kool-Aid like a lot of preachers will want you to think. There are those, and let me tell you, if people taught self-control, it'd be a whole different day and age. Back in those days, our king, he was probably still, having what we call today diapers, on. And you can believe me, he was drinking at times wine. They grew up drinking wine. The water wasn't all the greatest, It's not like today's water. Even in Germany, when I was over there doing my tour, I never drank the water. No one did. It tasted like if you took a cup and you put a tablespoon of laundry powder in there and stirred it up and drank it. That's what the water tasted like. So everybody drank beer, little guys, big guys. Now, they didn't have the problems that we do here, with, people getting drunk, going out, smashing their vehicles up as we do here, because we don't train our children. We don't train them up in the way to go. We say, no, you can't drink, you can't drink. Then they turn 21, they take off, and they start to do what they've never been allowed to do before. After one beer, man, things are swirling, and after 2 or 3, they're wrapping their cars around a telephone pole, That's the sin, is being drunk and practicing drunkenness. That is the sin about it. But to have a drink, there's nothing wrong with having a drink. Don't let your preachers lie to you and talk evil against our king. He turned 6 stone jars of water into wine. Now, and the fellow that got the wine said, hey, this is the best stuff usually they'll bring out the best first, but here they brought out the best. And he was drinking this wine. It was wine, it wasn't grape juice. When you break open a grape, there is fermentation, there's yeast on the outside of the jackets of the grape. It's like a magnet for yeast. As soon as you pop it open, the yeast starts eating the sugars in the grape. You could just leave the grape there, and in a day or 2, you'll start seeing bubbles coming up out of it. That's because of the yeast. It's the same yeast they use today, Of course, what they try to do is, in a lot of places, is they'll add sulfites to the wine. I can't have any wine out of any store. They all put poisons into the wine. It kills everything at first, and then they'll add yeast to it. But the yeast only grow to a certain percentage of alcohol, and then they won't reproduce no more. But you can take that very same wine, pouring it into some fresh juice, more grape juice or whatever, and it will bring forth a fermentation. Such as, I use apples a lot of time for my wine. I use apple wine, and sometimes I'll mix it with prune juice or cranberry juice, if I can find it where it's not adulterated, but of course it's been pasteurized, so everything in it's dead, and I'll just take a cup of the wine that I've already had brewing or done brewing, and I'll pour it into the bucket, the jug, with the pasteurized juices, and within a day or 2, you'll start seeing the bubbles. It's still alive. These things you can't stop. Now, once it gets to a certain alcohol level again, whether it's 5% or 13% or whatever it is for the yeast you're using, because each variety of yeast that they have today will go up to a certain percentage. But that same percentage was attained with just the outside yeasts that were on the grapes, and ever since the grapes were invented, created by our Heavenly Father. They have that property to it. Now, so Melvin, he just signed up. Anyway, I do say that y'all ought to come over and meet Melvin here on Signs and Wonders. Go to his channel too. Nick has put up, right here, Melvin's channel. You can see it in the description. Please, go check out Melvin. Give him a thumbs up here and there. He's trying really hard. He's a diligent man. He walks in what he talks. Okay. Same thing as Timothy P. Please give Timothy P. a looking at. And once again, my friends, there will be those here that are our king speaking of that will be evil servants, and begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with the drunkards. This is Matthew 24:50. The master of that servant, the ruler of that servant, will come on a day when he is not looking for him, and at an hour that he is not aware of. Why? He's not looking at the signs that our king had discussed through all these things. And I will cut him in two, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So who are these ones he's speaking of? Well, here in Matthew 7:21, it says, not everyone who says to me, ruler, ruler, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. And those ones he also said are my brothers, my mothers, my sisters, they're my brothers, those who do the will of my Father who art in heaven. And then it says here, many will say to me in that day, ruler, ruler, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name? So these people are servants, the evil servants. Because why? It says right here in Matthew 7:23, I'll declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice breaking the laws, you who practice lawlessness, you who loveth and teacheth a lie. Just like it says in the very last book of the Holy Scriptures, the every living word, the very last chapter in verse 22:14. This is the fulfillment of the law in your life. Listen to it. If you do keep the laws and commandments, blessed are those who do his commandments, that they might have right to the tree of life and may enter through the gates into the city. Verse 15 of chapter 22, very last book, very last page in the every living word. It says, but outside, what does it mean outside? Well, they didn't make it in through the gates of the city. They're not clinging to a right for the tree of life, because why? On the outside, there are these male prostitutes and the sorcerers, the doctors, and, those that make potions. And, right now, doctors are killing more people than guns are because they're still practicing. And, of course, those that are wizards and witches and tarot card readers, these sorts of people. It's grouping them all together with the sorcerers and sexually immoral and murderers and idolaters, and then the rapture believers, my friend, because you're not believing what our king had said in Matthew 23. Listen to what this says here, man. I love you. I don't want you to do this anymore. And whoever loves and practices a lie. I don't know anyone that preaches the rapture that don't love it. It's on their mind every day. They wake up wondering, will the rapture be today? They love that lie. Our king showed you, my friends. Here in Matthew 24, again, heaven and earth will pass away, but of that day and hour no one knows, not even the holy Malachim of heaven. but my Father only. Our King explained the third question. 2 verses he used to do it. Then he went back to the second question, explaining when he would return. The disciples knew he knew. He said, tell us, when will these things be? The tossing down of the stones of the temple. As you see, this ain't the place. People can't see that. Don't know why. Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming? They knew that he knew when he was going to return. That's why they asked him that. But they also wanted to know about the end of the age. Now, the end of the age, what our King said the end of the age is, you want to think is a rapture. But it takes place after our King's 1,000-year millennial reign takes place. That's when the heavens and the earth are going to be destroyed, my friends. You know, it's of that day and hour no one knows, not even the holy Malachim of heaven, but the Father only. Our King knows when he's returning, and he's going to reveal it to his servants. It's just not revealed right now, but you'll know when we're gathered. We'll know pretty shortly. Okay, so with that, I love y'all. Harry, please consider these things, man. Don't listen to them liars anymore. And thanks for the thumbs up, my friend. It means a lot, even though you don't know why you're doing it. You know, it still means a lot. And I love y'all. Second day of the feast down, I hope to bring out. Please let me know, how old you think the earth is. If I don't get anybody, interested really, other than 3 or 4 people, ain't no sense me explaining it, is there? So with that, I love y'all. Bye.